Welcome to this week's episode of Lifts. Mo, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's getting cooler here in DC. I think the low tomorrow is going to be in the 30s. I know it's always nice where you are, and even nicer where our guest is this week, who we'll get to here in a minute. But I'm kind of looking forward to the fall. The leaves are changing. I'm enjoying some cooler runs outside. I'm back to running now. If you remember, the week
Yeah, a
before I
Pilates
injured
issue.
the non-Pilates issue. That was a wrong diagnosis. It was,
I, I
I guess,
I did listen to that again, and I'm like, okay. I also was questioning, can you get an abdominal injury through running as well? So maybe there was something else that you did in New York. Maybe you had a sort of late night somewhere that you're not telling us about.
I only had one late night. You were not there, but I was with you most of the time in New York. So it was. I think it was tied to the running, and it was that whole week of running. No, it's been good. I'm not traveling much in October. I think you're traveling this month, but I've been traveling a lot the last few months, and decided to stay in home base here, enjoy the nice fall weather, spend some time with the family because they might, if I'm not home, they might not realize that I'm actually here and I live in this house. So looking forward to not traveling for a few weeks.
There's a few events going on. I think it's next week, depending on when this goes out. But there's a health club management that got an event in the UK where quite a few people are going. We got a few people there from our team going to be at that. I think the week after, or it's either the week after or it's this week. Again, not too sure. But I got my brother and a few others going out to an event in Dubai. I'm
That's
not sure. Is
correct.
it Dubai Active? Is it?
It's Dubai Active. That's happening the same week. It's
Oh,
next
okay.
week. And then also here in the US, you've got ALF conference, the Fitness Technology Summit happening in Vegas. And then at the same time, you've got the health conference also happening in Vegas. And then Zenoti, which is a member management software for wellness studios, their conference is happening in Vegas this week. So I just feel like it's conference galore. Oh, and there's an URSA conference happening in Barcelona also next week. So that's five conferences. I mean, I'm sure they all talk to each other and all of those things, but at least I cannot get called out for like making it to one and not making it out to the other four. So I feel like I'm just abstaining from all travel for this month.
All right. Well, I'm excited about today's topic. It's one that you know way more about than I do, and I think you brought another expert on, haven't you? That has been involved in some interesting projects by the sound of things.
Well, we were talking a lot about AI actually in a couple of early meetings that we had today. And AI is one of those things where actually, Matthew, I think you've done a better job in using, let's call it consumer AI than I have. I've done more of the commercial productization of AI in larger kind of enterprise, but I need to get better at using it on a personal level for myself and even for business. And I honestly learned a lot by reading the book. So we're going to get to the book here in a minute, but I want to introduce Dr. Todd Vickey, who I've actually known. We're trying to figure out the years, but it's more than 10 years. It goes back beyond 10 years. I want to introduce him with a quick bio. Dr. Vickey, you are calling in from San Diego, where I'm
I
sure it's
am.
just gorgeous.
Oh, it's not 34 degrees here. I can tell you that much.
Well, 34 is the low tomorrow morning here. So I don't know what it is. I think it's 55 right now in the afternoon. I'm going to do a quick bio. So for those of who are listening who might not know who Dr. Ted Vickey is, Dr. Ted Vickey is the founder and CEO of FitWell, a fitness and wellness disruptive health technology company serving clients worldwide. In addition, he is the senior advisor of fitness technologies at the American Council on Exercise and has held teaching positions at Point Loma University, the University of San Francisco, and Tulane. He is often referred to as one of the most connected men in fitness. Vickey served as an executive director of the White House Athletics Center under two presidents. He was named the most influential fitness tech person in January 2021 and served as the fitness technology expert witness for Meta versus FTC federal court case in 2022. Dr. Vickey has a PhD in engineering and data analytics from the University of Galway, a master's degree in international business and entrepreneurship from the University of Limerick, and a bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science from Penn State. So you effectively have more degrees than Matthew, I, and our producer Scott combined. I'm pretty sure of that. You've been around a lot. I mean, we are privileged to have you on board. And thank you, by the way, for sending us both copies of your latest book, The Fitness Professional's Guide to ChatGPT.
Well, Mo and Matthew, thanks for having me. And I often kind of giggle. If you would have told me when I graduated from Penn State, I'd have a PhD in engineering, I would bet you $1 million that I wouldn't. But as our careers go through life, it's kind of fun just to sit back and to reminisce of what it was. But I could tell you, it's the fitness industry has taken such good care of me, and really, I'm on the back nine of my career, and what I really want to do is to help those fitness professionals now. The traditional model of personal training, in my opinion, is broken. You trade time for money, and you got to find ways to differentiate yourself, but also to be able to do more. And I think with AI and with ChatGPT, which is the reason I wrote the book, professionals can really hone in that skill and then find a way to make even more money and work less.
Well, I really, really appreciate that. One quick question before we dive into AI and fitness, as having so many degrees and as being a futurist and being influential in technology and all things training, where do you think, both Matthew and I have young kids and thinking about what education is going to be like by the time they go to college, how do you think education is evolving and what's the future kind of state of education?
I wish I had a crystal ball, but I don't think that higher education as it is today is what it'll look like when your kids go to college. Think about it. Your children could log on to Harvard. They could take the same classes the Harvard kids are taking. The only difference is they don't get credit for it. So the question becomes, are we teaching or are we learning? I have these conversations all the time, and I call them the ivory tower academics. And I actually use AI in my classroom. My job is to get my students prepared for the real world, their first job. And AI is going to be part of that. And they say, well, if you use ChatGPT, then the students write the paper, they're not learning anything. I said, well, how about you change the assignment to an oral presentation and let them use AI? It's just like when computers came around, or when we were in high school and college, the card catalog, and then Google came around. It's just a progression of technology. And if you think about it, all it is a tool. Just like a dumbbell's a tool, a treadmill's a tool, a computer's a tool. That's all it really is. But I think higher education as it stands now, too expensive. Do you need a master's degree to be a great personal trainer? No, it helps, but you can have a great career being certified, have an undergraduate degree in exercise science, and have a fantastic life by doing that.
I think it's interesting when you talk about education. I have this discussion all the time with friends about my kids, but I think when I was at school, didn't particularly fall in love with school. My son's now going through that stage. He's almost a teenager and very sort of athletic and creative, but some of the classes he really struggles with. And we had the discussion on Saturday, and it's like, well, what classes don't you like? Well, I don't like geography. I don't like history. And so we went through some examples. We started with geography, and he loves to travel. He loves to meet people. He loves to understand what, when we go away, and we he loves to ask people questions about what happens and how they got to where they were. So he kind of loves history and geography, but the way that history and geography are presented to him is reading stuff, memorizing it from a book, and also a particular view on history that may not be his view on history about what he wants to do. So I think it's an interesting time for education, because now probably it's more important to actually teach people how to think, and certainly my experience with using ChatGPT is as amazing as what it is, unless you are able to think about the inputs and how to put things together, it's garbage that can come out. So a lot of it then comes back to the person who's driving the car, essentially. And I think it's like, well, how do we teach people? How do we teach our kids to be able to really use that technology effectively to move themselves or their businesses or their their friends, families forward? And I think that's an interesting sort of conversation.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would agree. It's almost like, when Photoshop came out 2-3 decades ago, it didn't make everyone a creative designer. It didn't make everyone, somehow artists, and now they have this innate ability to design. It was a tool. The tool needed a lot of work, and today you've got people who are experts in design, and they've moved on from Photoshop. I mean, our designers use a tool called Figma today, and as technology has changed, but I think that's true of AI as well. So what, Ted, let you to write the book that seems so simple? In fact, I referred to it earlier as almost Chat GPT for dummies, and I hope that's okay. That I'm referring it to that way because I learned a lot about it, and I've been using Chat GPT since it came out, since the pre-release days. But it was just the way you went about it. I just want to kind of call out this one description here, and I'd love to hear why you picked this. But you've got this one example where you call the chocolate cake example. And I just want to read this excerpt really quick, where you go, imagine you're in the kitchen, ready to bake a cake. All of the ingredients are laid out on the counter: flour, sugar, eggs, and more. But wait, you're unsure how to combine them to make that the perfect cake. That's where a recipe comes in handy. A recipe is like a set of instructions that tell you exactly what to do step by step. It's your guide to baking success. And that's really what Matthew's been talking about is you might have the tools available, you may have all the ingredients, but it's really how do you put it together? Because if you don't bake it the right way for the right time, the right temperature, you mix it in the right order, you're not going to have a great cake.
You could take a five-star chef and you could take me and give us the exact same ingredients, the exact same kitchen. It's not going to taste the same. I guarantee it. Right. But we have the same ingredients. So the gist of the book was to allow the fitness professionals have a, and you're right. It's for dummies, the ChatGPT guide, for that type of person, which is why I wrote the book, to allow those professionals to have a basic understanding. But there's so much more that we can do. Mo, I know you and I and Matthew, you as well. We're connected on LinkedIn. I am now using ChatGPT to create the images that I use with my posts. So I will create a post. I will take my post, put into a GBT, and say, create an image for this. 9 times out of 10, the first image that I get is absolutely the one I use. So, it's been a journey, as you well know. When it first started, it was kind of slow and clunky and that old garbage in, garbage out. It's still the same thing today. But we could have this conversation in a month, and there are going to be advancements that are going to take place that are going to make it even that much better. By the way, I say Chat GBT, but it can be, the Google product. It can be Microsoft. It can be Perplexity. There are a number of tools. So when I say AI, any of the prompts that I talk about in the book, you can use for any of those AI models.
The wait is over. Our new Escape Fitness catalog has landed. This is the essential guide to all of the latest product innovations that are shaping the future of functional training. Bigger and better than ever, this year's catalog is 190 pages, jam-packed with everything from eye-catching, bespoke functional training frames to some of the latest strength training equipment. So sign up today to receive the digital version today. So what are you waiting for? Go to escapefitness.com now.
Have you found any one of the engines working better than the other? I know, Matthew, I think you're on Chat GPT is what you use. That's what I have a subscription to as well. But if I'm in fitness, and obviously knowing with some of the large language models that we've built here, internally and for our clients, there's so much variety, and even the output is different depending on the model that you're using. So we typically lean towards one model compared to some others. From a consumer AI perspective, a consumer chatbot perspective, ChatGPT is the one that everyone knows about. But have you found a difference, or is one model particularly better for what we do than others?
I'm a ChatGPT person just because it was the first one that was around. So it's the one that I know. I've used the others. I will say this: there's one called Perplexity. If you haven't tried it, take a look at it. But what I do now is I use Perplexity, and here's how I do it. You've heard in the past that Chat GBT is not connected to the internet. It's not trained. In fact, it was trained up until I think the middle of last year. Yeah. Well, they've had advancements. So if you're on the free version of Chat GBT and you say, who won the Monday Night Football game this week, it may or may not know.
Did you have to bring that up, Ted? You do realize I'm a diehard Jets fan.
I know. That's why I brought it up.
Stings.
It was a good game, by the way. It was a good game. But if you go to Perplexity and ask it, it'll give you the answer. So it's connected to the internet. So what I do is if I want to write an academic article, let's just say something about the Krebs cycle, I can go into Perplexity and say, give me 10 articles about the Krebs cycle. It's going to give me articles that have just been published, whereas ChatGPT may not. So I take that information for Perplexity, I bring it into ChatGPT, I train it. So if you're the paid version, you click the little paperclip, you upload all the files. Now you've trained ChatGPT. So it's a great way to do that. It's just like it's the BMW, Mercedes. It's really personal preference. I think the user interface with ChatGPT much easier than some of the other ones. There's one called Mind Journey when it comes to creating graphics. It's fantastic. But you have to have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to programming. And then the one thing I really like about ChatGPT is the GBT. So I can create a ChatGPT prompt, if you will, and I can share it with Matthew. I can share it with you, Mo, and you're able to use it. Some of the other ones don't have that ability. So I want to share a lot of things that I do. In fact, I just created a prompt called myfitnessprompt.com. I trained my GBT on ACSM, ACE, NASM, all the major certification organizations. And I now have trained my GBT. So you as a professional can go and you can create a workout for your client. Now I put a couple things in there. So like onboarding, for example, it asks 10 questions. And have you ever exercised before? What do you like? What equipment do you have? Are you on medication? All of that information. You could just ask ChatGPT, give me a 4-week workout for marathon training. It'll give you one. But if you put that additional information, those 10 questions in, it's even more precise. In fact, I even have it so if it mentions any medication that would affect your heart rate, it'll flag it. So I really wanted personal trainers to see how, one, easy it is, and two, how much more in depth you can be by using the tool of ChatGPT.
So just on that this is a curious one for me. When I went for the pro version, it had this memory feature, and I got to say, hey, can you remember this about me? Can you remember this about my business? And it started to build up a really nice library. But then it got to a stage where it says your memory's full. And then it was like, you're going to have to delete some stuff. So how are you putting in all that information? If you've got the pro version, like how are you putting in more information so it doesn't get you to remove stuff from the memory, or do you have to create these subfolders? I don't want to give anything away that you teach, but that's
No.
just give me a high level overview.
So Matthew, what you're using is the memory that is for your entire ChatGPT. So I call mine Jarvis. I'm an Iron Man fan. It calls me Dr. V. We have conversations back and forth. It knows my writing style. So I've trained it and all that. Okay. So whenever I get on there, it's going to know that. With the GBTs, it's totally different. It doesn't use that memory. So it's different. So that's how you can upload all those files. I don't know what the maximum is, but I've uploaded, I think, over 300 pages of information for the it was a PDF. Number one, understood it. And I can ask questions now based on the information I uploaded. So 2 different memories, but you'd be surprised what you can upload and really keep. If you run into that with your personal memory, there's a way within ChatGPT you go in there and you just kind of delete some things and just keep it nice and tight.
And the other thing, just for me and for anyone that's listening, you said that you can create a GPT for somebody to create workout programs. So just give us an idiot's version of what a GPT is, different to what it is when you go into ChatGPT.
Okay. ChatGPT is what people use to create the GBTs. Think of it this way: a GBT is an app, right? So you use these apps and you can share them with people, and they're coming out now with ways where you can actually monetize it and charge people to use it. But that's what it is. So I've created an app that I can give you the URL. You then can go into that and use the prompts that I created to create the output. For example, I have one that you can upload your writing styles, and it will figure out your writing style. And then when you want to write an article, you say, use my writing style, write an article about golf fitness. It'll do it for you. There's even a way, remember the Myers-Briggs, all those personality types? There's now a way where you can take that information, put it on the back end of that, and now it's even more specific. So as you said, Matthew, garbage in, garbage out. You put a lot of good stuff in there. You'd be surprised. I could almost guarantee you've read something I've written that was written by ChatGPT. Now, let me give you one other thing. Everything I publish, I read and review because it's a tool that you can use. It's like if I had an intern write a newsletter article for me, I'm still going to review it. So you have to do that. Don't think ChatGPT is this magic bullet where you just put in information, it's going to spit out what you want. You gotta look at it because these AI models will have hiccups. I asked it where I got my PhD. It said I got it from Connecticut. I've never been to Connecticut, but I have a PhD from there based on ChatGPT. So it's a tool. It's getting better, but you still need to review it.
From looking at your book, I really kind of like the way your book's been organized, and you talk about the different functions and different chapters, and it sounds like you go through one, how do you personalize client experiences, and then you move to the workout prompt. You talk about streamlining operations. You go into content creation, enhancing training, even building a brand. In writing this book and from your experience, if you could pick today ChatGPT as a tool from a fitness perspective, what do you think its most useful use is today?
I think any of these AI models, and specifically ChatGPT, there are things that you and I don't like doing being entrepreneurs and business people. Let's allow ChatGPT to do those things that we don't like to do or it takes too long, which allows us to focus on the things that we love. I got in the fitness industry because I loved helping people. But when I was running the fitness center at the White House, I was in the back. I was doing payroll. I was doing marketing. I was doing all sorts of things. I couldn't spend the time out front. If I were at the White House today, I guarantee 70% of the stuff I did back then, I could automate with ChatGPT. I would review it, but it would give me time to be out front. It would give me time to interact with my clients, find out more about them, which would then make my prompts even more effective. So, Mo, I know that you just were in New York and you started running. If you were a client of mine, I could say, create Mo a 5-week training program to run a marathon, no equipment, and it's going to be cold outside. It would do it. And the more specific you can be, the better. Saying it's cold, saying it's warm, it's going to give you ideas. It's going to give you things. You're not going to run sprints when it's 100 degrees out. It knows those things, and that's the scary part. Is where did it learn all this stuff? Well, it was trained through the internet. It was trained by lots of smarter people than all of us combined, and it's such a great tool. And I've often thought that we in the fitness industry, for some reason, are behind when it comes to technology. We're so afraid of it. We fear that ChatGPT is going to replace us. It's not going to replace us. It's going to allow us to do other things. So don't fear ChatGPT.
Well, I think that's because a lot of people that want to get into fitness are always looking for a quick fix. And I think what they're looking at GLP-1 and maybe even AI and GPT, I can get that quick program. I can get that quick fix for my health solution. I do want to unpack one thing that you stated, which is around training models. So when we build enterprise models, typically when ChatGPT first came out, we built many kind of POCs for a lot of these, larger gym and fitness brands that we work with. And the response, and of course we learned, quite a bit about prompting and all the other things that you kind of talked about. But because the models initially were limited in what they were trained, and now, yes, it's a bit more updated, it's still trained on data found on the web, right? So in other
Mhm.
words, the models that are trained are found on data coming maybe from Reddit. I know Reddit has a big licensing agreement with a lot of, including OpenAI, who is behind ChatGPT and other companies. So instead, what we've done, without mentioning brands, but we've trained models based off of, especially for these larger enterprise brands that have, over 500,000 members, on their own data.
Yep.
And what by doing that, what it allowed us to do is to be very prescriptive on what the recommendations are going to be, because we build LLM models, ensuring so that what's recommended is prescriptive behind what that particular gym or brand or lifestyle would endorse. Is that a concern? Looking at, let's just say, taking your example, we're going to build a marathon training program in Chat GPT rather than a model, I'm just going to make this up, trained by the New York Roadrunners, for example. How do you view those things differently? Because one is getting data sourced from the internet, which could include crowdsourced information. The other is going to be from one of the largest running clubs in the world that you think would be a better set of data. I'm not sure, but I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that.
One of the things that I do now, especially if it's more of a scientific health base, I ask for the citations. ChatGPT for the longest time did not give citations. Remember, I said it does hiccups, it makes stuff up. I will ask it to show me the citations. So if I see it's coming from ACSM, if I see it's coming from the Runners Club, if I see it's coming from ACE, I know that it was trained or it learned based on those bodies of knowledge. You're right. You know, you might it might be pulling information that may not be something you want your clients to use or to try, which is why you as the fitness professional have to review it. If you look at it and it says have Mo run 50 wind sprints when it's summertime, that doesn't sound right. I wouldn't do that. So here's the beauty of ChatGPT. You can say, why did you do it this? Why did you say do it this way? It'll tell you. So I use ChatGPT on a daily basis to brainstorm. The book was a brainstorm. It helped me come up with those chapters. Once I had the chapters, it made it much more easy to do. And Mo, I tell you what, my PhD took 4 years. If I did it today, and remember, I looked at 3 million tweets of people working out online, I could have it done in 6 months. I guarantee it, because it can take all that information that I spent night after night reviewing, and it would be a better PhD research project, guaranteed.
What are your thoughts on? So I can imagine if I'm a trainer, I've built a reputation within my community, and you would want somebody that's honest, authentic. Those are some of the values that as a good trainer you would want people to think about you. How are you seeing that we need to either disclose or communicate or share if we're using this? Clearly, if you've gone to school, university, or whatever to learn some information, then you would have a knowledge about a lot of this stuff yourself. However, in the right way, I can also see that you've got a lot of information. Some you remember, some you don't. Maybe you've got a specific client that has specific needs where you need to go away and research it. You just given an example earlier to this. So there's some time saving that's involved in doing that. But how would you, in the correct way, provide, or would you provide the people you're working with the information that, look, you're working with an AI model in some way, and if so, what would be the best way to explain what you're doing so they don't think that you're cheating? And in some ways, I'm asking it for myself, because there's a lot of cases where it's like, look, this is a really good way to use that information, and I feel as an individual that I'm putting a ton of input into it to get a great answer or a report or presentation or whatever. But at the same time, in some ways, you question yourself to say, well, am I cheating?
Mm-hmm.
And I know there'll be a day where everybody does it, but it is a bit of a moral dilemma about, well, how you disclose it to people that may not fully understand how it works yet, because it's very new, in a way where they don't think they're getting ripped off.
Matthew, I have a footer now that I use in the things that I write, that I say that I wrote the following, and one of the tools I used was ChatGPT, and I explained that I do it. But I think that's the one thing you do. You explain as a fitness professional. I'm a certified fitness professional from the American College of Sports Medicine. I have a degree in exercise physiology from wherever. I use a number of tools, including AI models, to help you create the best workout that you can have. I also think that people may not really mind if you do that. It'd be fun to ask the question, and maybe that's something Mo and I will do when we do that tech survey, is ask what people think about it. But I think back to when I was at the White House and I was creating workouts by hand. I'm going to tell you a little secret. You know where I got my workouts from? The back of a Joe Weider magazine.
Yeah,
Right?
I think we all did.
Yeah,
I think we all did.
we did. So it's really, it just makes it a little bit more efficient to do that. But I think if it's a concern that you have as a personal trainer, disclose it. Don't say, I only use ChatGPT. But also remember, anybody can go out to ChatGPT and get that workout. But remember that onboarding process I told you about, where I'm asking those questions like, what medication you're on, what equipment do you have? That's where you create the human side of that interaction. Someone asked me at a conference, will ChatGPT replace the personal trainer? I said, no, there's a word before trainer, it's personal. Keep the personal side as the gold standard. You can do more work with more people and be more effective and be more personal because you're allowing AI, the computer, the technology to do a lot of the work. You still reviewing it. That's important. You can say, I use ChatGPT, and through my 30 years of experience, I reviewed it and I give it my stamp of approval.
Have you thought about what the ROI for a personal trainer? Because you're absolutely right. I mean, that's when I go to a conference and we don't work with trainers directly, but we work with gyms that the trainers work at. And they say, well, is AI going to replace us? And I said, no, but you need to understand how to use AI so that you could be a better personal trainer. And from what you've seen, if you could put a number, and you might not be able to, but I think everyone should read your book if you're in the industry, if you're a trainer. What do you think the ROI is for someone using ChatGPT, whether it's time or money?
Mo, I gave a talk at ACSM IDEA in March of this year. Here's what I did. I found a job description from a corporate fitness company in Washington, D.C. I went through the job description for each job task. I gave it a number. What percent can ChatGPT do of that? At the end, I totaled it. 70% of the tasks that were on that job description could be done, and probably done better and quicker, with AI models. Now, that's going to change the way that we look at corporate fitness. Well, fitness, no matter what model you're looking at, it's going to change the way that we look at fitness. So how can we add on? How do we add value to this? It's the personalization. It's the getting out and talking to people. It is the using this to expand. As a personal trainer, how many people do you see in a day? 5 if you're lucky. But now with ChatGPT, you might be able to say 15. So now you're making an impact on 15 people. And you might even be able to charge less because you're seeing more people. I think the days of, well, it's interesting. Our parents' generation, you went to a gym for fitness. Our generation, we see the value. You don't have to go to a gym, but we see your children's. I mean, they're going to get fitness from this right here. And this is millions of times more powerful than the computer used to put the man on the moon. We keep this in our pocket. So imagine a world where we are going to have a lot of things. And I'm really interested with the new AI Apple Intelligence coming out, which is based on ChatGPT. How that's going to make an impact. I'm not a big fan of Siri. I haven't been for 10 years because it always gets things wrong.
Yeah.
But if it gets it right.
I don't think anyone is. Matthew and I send each other text messages on Siri, and it never comes out like it's supposed to, but we know that it's Siri doing
Well, there's
it.
a little tip actually. What if you I've found this out by accident, but if you're doing any sort of voice dictation, whether it's text or email, it's much more accurate if you do the voice on GPT, cut and paste and put it into an email than what it is on Siri. It just seems to really understand your voice, and you can sort of almost go at super fast speed, and it's super accurate. So I definitely.
So are you sending me
tip.
ChatGPT text messages? Is that what I'm getting?
Well, on text I probably don't, but if it's an email, then I'll just draft it into GPT, ask it to tidy it up for me. I'm trying to teach it about how I write, and then I'll send an email. But it can save you if it's a complicated document and there's a lot there. It also helps you sort of restructure your thoughts and put it into some sort of priority order. Yeah, and that saves me a lot of time, definitely.
So Matthew, I'm gonna send you a GPT that I created about how to write like me, and you just go through it. You ask a couple of questions, take some of your old writings that you really like, and you train it, and then you just say from now on, write. I have one called academic writing, so I do have to write academic. I write a blog, I write emails, so I have different themes, different tones and styles for each one. I have one that tells dad jokes.
I need that. I need that one as well. Mo, I think we're about to our time, so we're going to need to do our takeaways.
One quick thing before we do that I want to ask Ted about in the book. You've got so much good tools here to cover, but you've got this one section on range of motion analysis, and saying that ChatGPT can analyze, as an example, a range of motion of a client. How are you doing that? So if I'm training a client and I'm trying to access or get input into their range of motion, are you taking a video and then uploading it? I mean, how does that work?
That's probably more advanced feature than what we have, but we've been working with a company out of Singapore that actually does that with the phone, where you can take a picture, a video, and it'll put the little dots on the different access points, and it will know if you're doing the exercise correctly. You can take that information, put it through ChatGPT, train it to say this is what it should look like, and have an output. That's probably more of an advanced feature, but that's what's coming in the future. the ability to do that. That was the biggest concern I had of, yeah, I'm having clients use ChatGPT to create a workout, but I don't know if they're doing it correctly. Now you can put the phone right in front. You're doing your squats. It knows if you do the squats correctly. It'll even count for you.
Well, we typically like to wrap up with some key takeaways of the episode, and we usually cover a lot of stories, but here we are talking about the book and ChatGPT. Ted, if you have one key takeaway or several, let me know. Would let the audience know what you think that might be.
I'm going to use the old Nike ad. Just do it. Don't be afraid of technology. It's here. It's not going anywhere. We've been using it longer than you think. I mean, when you go on Netflix and it tells you this is what you should watch next, guess what? That's AI. We've been using it. We just didn't know. Just try it. The book is there. It's available. You get it on Amazon. You come to the website that I have. I'll give you the free first chapter. But I just want people to try it. If it doesn't work for you, great. There's still going to be people that want to train. I'll call it the old-fashioned way. But trust me, there are going to be more people that want to be able to train with you virtually, worldwide. Matthew could be my personal trainer, and he's in Dubai, and I'm here. We still have a relationship. So I think it's going to allow personal trainers to expand their scope of what they can do. You're not confined by the four physical walls of a fitness center.
Mo, what are your takeaways from this week?
Well, I think I needed to dig deeper, more into using AI for personal things, which I do. I know we use a lot of AI on the business side with our clients, but I think I'm just starting to kind of peel the layers back and using it for personal branding, just even getting information. I'm curious to know more about this personalizing AI for you, like to speak in your own language. And then also, can I upload data from like my Aura Ring as an example and have ChatGPT analyze? So I'm keen to explore some of those areas.
I think from my perspective, I'd love it if you were doing any workshops. I've read the book and it left me with lots of questions. And I think some sort of online workshop that would break down some of this information in a little bit more detail, because I think it's such a powerful tool. And just even some of the examples you gave today would sort of take my basic level of understanding to another level and make what I'm able to do and to produce a lot more valuable, and make the most of the time that I'm able to spend on the things that I do. And I think that also applies to if you're a trainer, for example, you gave some examples of it removing around about 70% of the workload, and I think personal training, as you say, it's got the word personal in it for a reason. It's really working with individuals, understanding them. A lot of these things are things that at the moment AI can't do. And if you think about it in terms of like a Pareto principle, it's almost like, well, getting rid of the stuff which can be done better by another way, and then the things that really require us as individuals or as trainers to that's really where the magic is in various different roles. And I think it just gives the ability to double down on those really important skills and maybe take those skills to a whole new level and support it with things like this. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. I just feel as though I want to know a lot more about it.
Well, Matthew, you're in luck. We're coming out with some courses. We're doing some relationships with some of the bigger certifications. So you're a friend of Mo, you're a friend of mine, so I'll make sure you get in. Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll make sure, as you've got that, let us know, and we'll make sure that we update people on the podcast, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that would be keen to follow what you're up to. We'll put a link to the book for anybody that's interested. Certainly would, if you're not using ChatGPT, it's a great first step to get you to understand what it's all about. And I'm going to have to wrap up there now. So Ted, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a great episode. We'll get you back on, I think. Mo, would you agree?
I agree. It's been great, Ted. And where can people purchase the book from?
Best way is just go to Amazon. Ted Vickey, Vickey. I've got a couple books, but the book is called The Fitness Professional's Guide to ChatGPT. Click the button and we'll send it to you next day.
Well, thanks very much for listening to this week's podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please help us get it out to more people by sharing it to someone that you know. And thanks again for listening.